Dmitri Dmitrievich Shostakovich was a Soviet-Russian composer and one of the most celebrated composers of the 20th century. Shostakovich achieved fame in the Soviet Union under the patronage of Leon Trotsky's Chief of Staff Mikhail Tukhachevsky, but later had a complex and difficult relationship with the government. Nevertheless, he also received accolades and state awards and served in the Supreme Soviet of the RSFSR from 1947 to 1962, and in the USSR from 1962 until his death in 1975. After a period influenced by Sergei Prokofiev and Igor Stravinsky, Shostakovich developed a hybrid style, as exemplified by Lady Macbeth of the Intense District of 1934. This single work juxtaposed a wide variety of trends, including the neoclassical style, showing the influence of Stravinsky, and post-romanticism after Gustav Mahler. Sharp contrasts and elements of the grotesque characterized much of this music. Born in St. Petersburg, Russia, on the 25th of September 1906, Shostakovich was the second of three children, born to Dmitri Voleslavich Shostakovich and Sofia Vasilievna Kukulina. Shostakovich's paternal grandfather was of Polish Roman Catholic descent. His family roots can be traced back to the town Varleka in Belarus, but his immediate forebears came from Siberia. Dmitri Dmitrievich Shostakovich was a child prodigy as a pianist and composer, his talent becoming apparent after he began piano lessons with his mother at the age of 9. On several occasions he displayed a remarkable ability to remember what his mother had played at the previous lesson, and would get caught in the act of pretending to read the score in front of him, but instead playing the previous lesson's music. After graduation, he initially embarked on a dual career as concert pianist and composer, but his dry style of playing prompted his American biographer Laurel Fay to comment on his emotional restraint and riveting rhythmic drive. He nevertheless won an honorable mention at the first International Frédéric Chopin Piano Competition in Warsaw in 1927. After the competition, Shostakovich met the conductor Bruno Walter, who was so impressed by the composer's first symphony that he conducted it at its Berlin premiere later that year. Leopold Stokowski was equally impressed and gave the work its US premiere the following year in Philadelphia, and also made the work's first recording. In 1936, Shostakovich fell from official favour. The year began with a series of attacks on him in Pravda, in particular an article entitled "Muddle Instead of Music," written as a response to his opera Lady Macbeth of the Intense District. Shostakovich was away on a concert tour in Archangel when he heard the news of the first Pravda article. 2 days before the article was published, on the evening of the 28th of January, a friend advised Shostakovich to attend the Bolshoi Theatre's production of the opera. When he arrived, he saw that Stalin and the Politburo were there. In letters written to Ivan Solotinsky, a close friend and advisor, Shostakovich recounts the horror with which he watched as Stalin shuddered every time the brass and percussion played too loudly. Equally horrifying was the way that Stalin and his companions laughed at the love-making scene between Sergei and Katerina. Eyewitness accounts testify that Shostakovich was white as a sheet when he went to take his bow after the third act. The article, which condemned Lady Macbeth as formalist, coarse, primitive and vulgar, was thought to have been instigated by Stalin himself. Consequently, commissions began to fall off, and his income fell by about 3/4. Even Soviet music critics who had praised the opera were forced to recount in print, saying they had failed to detect the shortcomings of Lady Macbeth as pointed out by Pravda. The publication of the Pravda editorials coincided with the composition of Shostakovich's Fourth Symphony. The work was a great shift in style for the composer, due to the substantial influence of Gustav Mahler, as well as multiple Western-style elements. The symphony gave Shostakovich compositional trouble as he attempted to reform his style into a new idiom. The composer was well into the work when the fatal articles appeared. Despite this, Shostakovich continued to work on the symphony and planned a premiere at the end of 1936. Practice began that December, but after a number of rehearsals, Shostakovich, for reasons still debated to this day, decided to withdraw the symphony from the public. A number of his friends and colleagues, such as Isaac Glickman, has suggested that it was in fact an official ban which Shostakovich was persuaded to present as a voluntary withdrawal. Whatever the case, it seems possible that this action saved the composer's life. During this time, Shostakovich feared for himself and his family. Yet Shostakovich did not repudiate the work. It retains its designation as his Fourth Symphony. A piano reduction was published in 1946, and in 1961, well after Stalin's death, the full symphonic work was finally premiered.